The dust swirled around Olivia Porter's ankles as she drove the hoe into the hard Nebraska soil, her back aching after hours bent over the corn rows. At 22, she hadn't imagined this would be her life, working her deceased father's farm alongside hired hands, her delicate hands now calloused and her fair skin tanned by the relentless prairie sun. The year was 1876, and while the nation celebrated its centennial with grand exhibitions back east, Olivia fought a different battle on the edge of the frontier, the battle to keep her family's land. "Would you look at that?" came a sneering voice from the road. Olivia straightened, wiping sweat from her brow as she spotted 3 riders approaching. Thomas Harrington, son of the local banker, sat atop his chestnut gelding, flanked by 2 companions. Miss Porter playing at being a farmer again. What would your poor mother say if she could see you now? Olivia gripped her hoe tighter. My mother would say I'm doing what needs to be done, Thomas. Not everyone has the luxury of sitting in an office counting other people's money. The men laughed, and Thomas's smile didn't reach his eyes. A woman's place is in the home, Olivia. Not wallowing in the dirt like some common laborer. It's unseemly. There's nothing unseemly about honest work, Olivia replied, though the words stung. It wasn't the first time she'd heard such sentiments since taking over the farm after her father's passing 6 months ago. You'll never find a husband working fields like a man, called one of Thomas's companions. What gentleman would want a wife with hands like a ranch hand and skin like leather? Olivia felt heat rise to her cheeks, but stood her ground. I don't recall asking for your opinion on my marital prospects. Thomas leaned forward in his saddle. Your father left you in a precarious position, Miss Porter. My father's offer to purchase your land still stands. It would be the sensible thing to do before you work yourself into an early grave or become the town's cautionary tale. My answer hasn't changed, Thomas. This land isn't for sale. Suit yourself, Thomas said with a shrug. But a woman alone can't manage a farm this size. You'll come around eventually. With that, he turned his horse and the 3 men continued down the road, their laughter carrying on the wind. Olivia returned to her work, blinking back tears of frustration. She knew the gossip that circulated through town, how improper it was for a young, unmarried woman to be working the fields, how she was throwing away her youth and beauty on a futile endeavor. But what choice did she have? Her father had left considerable debts, and selling the farm would barely cover them. This land was all she and her 16-year-old sister, Emma, had left. As the afternoon sun beat down, Olivia saw a plume of dust in the distance. Another rider approached, but this one was unfamiliar, a tall figure on a magnificent black stallion. She straightened again, shielding her eyes against the sun as the horseman drew closer. He reined in at the edge of her field, removing his hat to reveal dark hair and striking blue eyes. He couldn't have been more than 27 or 28, with broad shoulders and a face weathered by sun and wind. "Afternoon, madam," he called, his voice deep and pleasant. "I'm looking for the Porter farm. Would this be it?" Olivia nodded warily. "It is. I'm Olivia Porter." Surprise flickered across his face before he collected himself. "Isaiah Adams," he said with a slight bow of his head. "I've come about the position." "Position?" Olivia echoed, confused. "The farm hand position," he clarified. "Your advertisement in the Omaha paper said you were looking for experienced help." Olivia had placed that advertisement weeks ago, but had given up hope of a response. Most men in these parts weren't keen on working for a woman, especially one struggling to make ends meet. "Yes, of course," she said, studying him more carefully. His clothes were worn but clean, his saddle and tack well maintained. "You're a long way from Omaha, Mr. Adams." "Been making my way westward," he replied. "Worked ranches in Kansas and Colorado before heading back this way." "I've got experience with crops and cattle both." Olivia hesitated. She desperately needed help, but could she afford to pay him? "The position doesn't pay much, I'm afraid. Room and board plus a small wage until the harvest comes in." Isaiah nodded. "That's agreeable." "I'm not looking for riches, Miss Porter, just honest work." As they stood talking, the Wilkinsons' wagon rattled past. Mrs. Wilkinson, the miller's wife and one of the town's most notorious gossips, slowed to stare openly at them, her disapproval evident even from a distance. "Seems you're causing quite a stir," Isaiah observed with a hint of amusement. Olivia sighed. "Working my own fields is apparently scandalous enough. Hiring a stranger will give them something new to talk about, at least." A smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. "Well then, we might as well give them something worthwhile to gossip about. Why don't you show me around and we can discuss what needs doing?" For the first time in months, Olivia felt a flicker of hope. She gestured toward the farmhouse. "This way, Mr. Adams. I'll introduce you to my sister and show you where you'll be staying." As they walked, Isaiah studied the fields with a keen eye. "Your corn looks good," he commented, "but that western section needs attention." "I haven't had time to get to it," Olivia admitted. "I've been trying to prioritize, but there's always more work than hours in the day." Isaiah nodded thoughtfully. "That'll change now. 2 sets of hands will make a difference." They reached the modest 2-story farmhouse where Emma was hanging laundry. She looked up as they approached, her eyes widening at the sight of the stranger. "Emma, this is Mr. Adams," Olivia introduced them. "He's answered our advertisement for farm help." Emma's face lit up. "Really? Oh, that's wonderful. Livy's been working herself half to death." Isaiah tipped his hat. "Pleased to meet you, Miss Emma. Your sister seems plenty capable, but everyone needs help sometimes." Olivia showed Isaiah to the small cabin behind the main house that had once housed their previous farm hand, old Mr. Jenkins, who had left after her father died, claiming he was too old to work for a slip of a girl. "It's not much," Olivia apologized, noting the sparse furnishings: a bed, a table with 1 chair, and a small stove. "It's more than enough," Isaiah assured her. "I've slept under the stars more nights than I can count. 4 walls and a roof are luxury by comparison." They agreed that he would start the following morning, and Isaiah took his leave to fetch his few belongings from town. As Olivia watched him ride away, Emma appeared at her side. "He seems nice," her sister commented, "and strong. Do you think he'll stay?" Olivia sighed. "I don't know, Em. Men don't usually take kindly to working for a woman." "Well, I like him," Emma declared. "And did you see how he looked at you? Not like the others in town, all judging and pitying." "Don't start," Olivia warned, though she had noticed. Isaiah Adams had looked at her not as an object of scorn or pity, but as a person, perhaps even someone to respect. It was a refreshing change. The next morning, Isaiah arrived as dawn broke, already prepared to work. Olivia had been up since before sunrise, milking the cows and feeding the chickens. She emerged from the barn to find him examining the plow. "It needs work," he observed, running his hand along the blade. "Blade's dull and the hitch is worn. I can fix it today." "I'd appreciate that," Olivia said. "I've been doing what I can by hand, but we need to plow the north field if we're going to plant wheat come fall." They worked through the morning, Olivia showing Isaiah the layout of the farm, explaining what her father had planted in previous years and what she hoped to accomplish. Isaiah listened attentively, offering suggestions but never dismissing her ideas. By midday, word had spread through town that Olivia Porter had hired a strange man to live on her property. As they worked the eastern field, visible from the main road, several wagons slowed as they passed, their occupants openly staring. "Reverend Miller's wife," Olivia murmured as one wagon passed. "By sundown, half the town will know you're here, and by tomorrow, there'll be rumors we're engaged, married, or living in sin." Isaiah chuckled. "Small towns run on gossip, don't they? It was the same where I grew up in Illinois." "What brought you west?" Olivia asked, curious about this man who had appeared so unexpectedly in her life. "The war initially," he replied, his expression sobering. "Served with the Union Army, though I was just a boy at the end. Afterward, home didn't feel right anymore. Too many memories, too many ghosts. So I headed west looking for something, not sure I ever found it, but I found work and purpose enough." Olivia nodded, understanding the need to escape painful memories. "My father fought too. He came back different, quieter, started drinking more. The farm suffered for it." She hesitated. "That's part of why we're struggling now. He left debts I didn't know about until after he passed." Isaiah was quiet for a moment. "War changes men, some more than others." He glanced at her. "You've taken on a heavy burden for someone so young." "I'm not that young," Olivia protested. 22 is plenty old enough to know my own mind. I didn't mean it as an insult, Isaiah said. Just an observation. Most women your age in these parts are married with children, not running farms. Well, I never was much good at doing what's expected of me, Olivia replied with a small smile. The days fell into a pattern. Isaiah worked from sunrise to sunset, tackling the tasks Olivia had been struggling with for months. He repaired fences, fixed the plow, and helped prepare fields that had lain fallow. Olivia worked alongside him whenever she could, though she also had the house to maintain and Emma to look after. One afternoon, about 2 weeks after Isaiah's arrival, Olivia was working in the field nearest the road when Thomas Harrington rode up with the sheriff. "Miss Porter," the sheriff called, tipping his hat. "Got a moment?" Olivia wiped her hands on her apron and approached the fence. "Sheriff Davis." "Is something wrong?" "Just checking in," the sheriff said, though his expression suggested otherwise. "Heard you've got a stranger working for you. Thought I should meet him, make sure everything's proper." Thomas smirked beside him. "People are concerned, Olivia." A young, unmarried woman with a drifter living on her property, it raises questions. Olivia felt her temper flare. "Mr. Adams answered my advertisement for farm help. He's an experienced worker with references, and he stays in the cabin behind the house. There's nothing improper about it." "Still," the sheriff insisted, "in your situation, appearances matter. Your father was a respected man in this community." "My father left me with a farm to run and debts to pay," Olivia replied evenly. "I'm doing what needs to be done to preserve what he built." Isaiah appeared then, carrying a repaired harness. He nodded politely to the men. "Afternoon, gentlemen." Sheriff Davis straightened. "You must be Adams. Where are you from, son?" "Originally Illinois, sir, but I've worked throughout the West these past 10 years. "And what brings you to our little corner of Nebraska?" Isaiah met the sheriff's gaze directly. "Honest work, sir. Miss Porter was offering it and I was looking for it. Simple as that." Thomas's lip curled. "And I suppose it's just coincidence that you ended up working for one of the only female landowners in the county." Isaiah's expression remained neutral, but Olivia noticed his jaw tighten slightly. "I answered an advertisement. The fact that Miss Porter is a woman doesn't matter to me. She pays fair wages for fair work." The sheriff studied Isaiah for a moment longer, then nodded. "Well, just keep in mind that this is a respectable community, Mr. Adams. We look after our own." "I understand completely, Sheriff," Isaiah replied. "Miss Porter's reputation is safe with me." After they rode away, Olivia released a long breath. "I'm sorry about that. I should have warned you." Isaiah shook his head. "No need. I've dealt with suspicious lawmen before." He glanced at her. "Though I get the feeling this was about more than just propriety." "Thomas Harrington wants our land," Olivia explained. "His father's been buying up properties all around us. They've been pressuring me to sell since father died." "And you don't want to?" Olivia looked out over the fields, golden in the afternoon sun. "This land has been in my family for 20 years. My parents came here with nothing, broke the soil, built this house. Everything I have, everything I am, is tied to this place. I can't just walk away from it." Isaiah nodded, understanding in his eyes. "Then we'll make sure you don't have to." The next Sunday, Olivia and Emma attended church as usual. They sat in their regular pew, ignoring the whispers and glances. Isaiah had declined to join them, saying he had work to do, though Olivia suspected he wanted to spare her additional gossip. After the service, as people gathered on the church steps, Mrs. Wilkinson approached, flanked by several other town matrons. "Olivia, dear," she said, her voice dripping with false concern. "We've been talking and we're worried about you. This situation with your employee. It simply isn't proper." Olivia kept her expression neutral. "Mr. Adams is a hardworking, respectful man who has helped immensely with the farm. There's nothing improper about our arrangement." "A young, unmarried woman living alone with a strange man," Mrs. Miller interjected. "People talk, Olivia. Think of your reputation. Think of Emma's future." "I am thinking of Emma's future," Olivia replied. "I'm trying to preserve the only home she's ever known." "There are other solutions," Mrs. Wilkinson insisted. "Thomas Harrington has expressed interest in courting you. His father's offer for your land is more than generous. You could have a comfortable life as Thomas's wife, and Emma could have proper opportunities." Olivia nearly laughed aloud at the suggestion. Thomas Harrington has expressed interest in my land, not in me. And I have no desire to be his wife or anyone else's at present. Pride comes before a fall, young lady, Mrs. Miller warned. Your stubbornness will be your undoing. As Olivia and Emma walked home, Emma reached for her sister's hand. I hate how they talk to you. As if you're doing something wrong by trying to save our home. Olivia squeezed her hand. They mean well in their way, they just can't understand a woman wanting something different than what they've chosen. I think Mr. Adams understands, Emma said thoughtfully. He never treats you like you're odd for working the fields or making decisions. Olivia smiled. No, he doesn't. That's refreshing. As they crested the hill and their farm came into view, they saw Isaiah working in the distance, his shirt sleeves rolled up as he repaired the chicken coop. Something warm unfurled in Olivia's chest at the sight, something she quickly tamped down. Isaiah Adams was her employee, not a suitor. And regardless of what the town thought, she wasn't looking for a husband. But as the weeks passed, Olivia found herself increasingly aware of Isaiah's presence. She noticed the strength in his hands as they worked side by side, the intelligence in his eyes as they discussed crop rotations, the kindness in his voice when he spoke to Emma. He treated both sisters with respect, never condescending or dismissive. One evening in early June, a thunderstorm rolled in unexpectedly. Olivia and Isaiah were still in the fields when the first fat raindrops fell. They rushed to secure what they could before the deluge hit in earnest. The new calves, Olivia suddenly remembered. They're in the lower pasture. We need to bring them up to the barn. Without hesitation, Isaiah headed toward the pasture, Olivia at his heels. By the time they reached the calves, the rain was coming down in sheets. They herded the frightened animals back toward the barn, the mud making the task twice as difficult. Inside the barn at last, soaked to the skin and breathing hard, Olivia pushed her wet hair from her face and laughed. Well, that was an adventure. Isaiah grinned, water dripping from his hair. Just another day on the Porter farm. Lightning flashed, illuminating the barn in stark white light, followed immediately by a deafening crack of thunder. One of the calves bawled in fear, and Olivia moved to soothe it. Easy there, she murmured, stroking its damp head. Just a little storm, nothing to fear. Isaiah watched her, an unreadable expression on his face. You've got away with animals, they trust you. My mother was the same, Olivia said, smiling at the memory. She could calm the most skittish horse or coax eggs from hens that wouldn't lay for anyone else. I used to think it was magic. Maybe it was in its way, Isaiah replied, a kind of magic that comes from patience and understanding. Another flash of lightning, another roll of thunder. Rain pounded on the roof, creating a cocoon of sound around them. In that moment, the outside world with its judgments and expectations seemed very far away. We should check the west wall, Olivia said, breaking the spell. It leaks sometimes in heavy rain. They moved through the barn, securing loose boards and placing buckets under persistent drips. Working together in comfortable silence, they finished just as the storm began to abate. Think we can make a run for it? Olivia asked, peering out the barn door at the main house where lamplight glowed in the windows. I'll walk you back, Isaiah offered. Make sure you don't slip in the mud. Outside, the rain had softened to a gentle patter. The air smelled of wet earth and grass, and the setting sun broke through the clouds, casting everything in a golden glow. Isaiah offered Olivia his arm as they navigated the muddy yard, and she took it without thinking. Thank you, she said as they reached the porch. Not just for today, but for everything these past weeks. The farm hasn't looked this good in years. Isaiah smiled, his eyes crinkling at the corners. It's good land, just needed some attention. Still, Olivia insisted, I don't know what we would have done without your help. A moment passed between them, charged with something Olivia wasn't ready to name. Isaiah took a small step back, breaking the tension. Good night, Miss Porter, he said softly. Good night, Mr. Adams, she replied, watching as he crossed the yard to his cabin, wondering why her heart was beating so fast. The next day brought clear skies and the annual town picnic, an event Olivia had been dreading. Emma, however, was excited for the chance to socialize, and Olivia couldn't deny her sister the rare opportunity for fun. Will Mr. Adams come with us? Emma asked as they prepared a basket of food to share. I don't know, Olivia replied. I told him he was welcome to, but he might prefer to avoid the town stairs. To her surprise, Isaiah appeared at the house that morning freshly shaved and wearing a clean shirt. Thought I might join you ladies for the picnic if the invitation still stands, he said. Emma beamed. Of course it does, right, Livy? Absolutely, Olivia agreed, ignoring the flutter in her stomach. We'd be delighted to have your company. They walked to town together, Emma chattering happily about the games and contests that would be held. The town square was already busy when they arrived, with tables set up under shade trees and children running about. Olivia felt the weight of curious stares as they found a spot to spread their blanket. Miss Porter, Reverend Miller greeted them, his wife at his side. And Miss Emma. Good to see you both, and this must be your farm hand. Isaiah Adams, sir, Isaiah said, extending his hand. Pleased to meet you. The Reverend shook his hand briefly. Mr. Adams, I haven't seen you at Sunday services. I've been catching up on work around the Porter farm, Isaiah replied smoothly, but I hope to attend soon. Mrs. Miller's eyes narrowed slightly. We do hope so. Regular church attendance is the mark of a good Christian character. After they moved on, Emma giggled. Mrs. Miller looked like she smelled something bad when she saw you with us. Emma, Olivia chided, though she'd noticed it too. Isaiah just smiled. It's all right. I'm used to being the object of suspicion when I'm new in town. Throughout the afternoon, Olivia was acutely aware of the continued stares and whispers. When she went to refill their water pitcher, she overheard two women talking. Living in sin, if you ask me, one was saying. Her poor father would be turning in his grave. Such a shame, the other replied. She was such a pretty girl before she started working in the fields like a common laborer. Now look at her hands, rough as a man's, skin brown as an Indian's. No wonder she can only attract drifters. Olivia's cheeks burned with humiliation. She knew she didn't look like the other young women in town with their pale complexions and soft hands. Months of physical labor had changed her body, made it strong and lean. Her once delicate skin was now tanned and freckled from the sun. She returned to their blanket, trying to hide her distress, but Isaiah noticed immediately. What's wrong? He asked quietly while Emma was distracted by the pie eating contest. Nothing, Olivia said, forcing a smile, just the usual town gossip. Isaiah studied her face. They're fools, you know, every last one of them. I used to fit in here, Olivia said softly. Before Father died, before I had to take over the farm, I was just another young lady attending socials and church functions, doing needlework with the other girls. Do you miss that life? Isaiah asked. Olivia considered the question. Parts of it. I miss being accepted. I miss not having everyone look at me like I'm some kind of oddity. She glanced at her calloused hands. But I've never felt more real than I do now, working our land, making my own decisions. Isaiah nodded, understanding in his eyes. Freedom has a price, always has. The afternoon wore on, and despite the initial awkwardness, Olivia began to enjoy herself. Isaiah proved surprisingly popular with the children, organizing a game of tag and letting the smallest ones ride on his shoulders. Emma joined the young ladies' sack race and won a blue ribbon, her face flushed with pride. As the sun began to set, the band started playing, and couples moved to the cleared area for dancing. Emma was asked to dance by the blacksmith's son, and Olivia watched with a smile as they joined the other couples. Would you care to dance, Miss Porter? Olivia turned to find Thomas Harrington standing beside her, hand extended. She hesitated, reluctant to encourage him but equally reluctant to cause a scene by refusing. Just one dance, Thomas said, his smile not reaching his eyes. For old time's sake. Before Olivia could respond, Isaiah appeared at her side. I believe Miss Porter promised me the next dance, he said smoothly. Perhaps another time, Mr. Harrington. Thomas's face darkened. I don't recall asking you, farmhand. It's all right, Thomas, Olivia interjected, taking Isaiah's offered arm. Mr. Adams is right. I did promise him a dance. As Isaiah led her to the dance floor, Olivia whispered, I didn't actually promise you a dance, you know. A smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. Consider it a rescue, then. You looked like you'd rather face a rattlesnake than dance with that fellow. Olivia laughed. You're not far wrong. The band struck up a waltz, and Isaiah placed one hand at her waist, taking her hand with the other. He was a surprisingly good dancer, leading her confidently through the steps. Where did you learn to dance like this? Olivia asked. I wouldn't have expected a cowboy to be so accomplished. My mother insisted all her sons learn, Isaiah replied. Said a man who could dance would never lack for female company. She was a wise woman, Olivia said, finding herself enjoying the solid warmth of his hand against hers, the gentle pressure at her waist guiding her through the turns. They danced in silence for a moment, and Olivia became aware of the stares directed their way. Everyone's watching us, she murmured. Let them watch, Isaiah said, his voice low. Maybe they'll learn something about what really matters. And what's that? Olivia asked, looking up into his blue eyes. That a woman strong enough to work her own fields and brave enough to defy convention is worth 1,000 society belles with soft hands and empty heads. Olivia's breath caught at his words, at the intensity in his gaze. For a moment, the rest of the world faded away, and there was only the music and the man before her, his hand warm in hers. The spell was broken when Thomas appeared beside them, his face flushed with anger or drink, possibly both. I think that's enough, he said loudly. You're making a spectacle of yourself, Olivia. Isaiah stiffened, but Olivia squeezed his hand in warning. The dance isn't over, Thomas, she said calmly. It is for you, Thomas insisted, grabbing her arm. Have you no shame, dancing with your hired hand while the whole town watches? Isaiah's hand shot out, grasping Thomas's wrist. Take your hand off the lady, he said, his voice dangerously quiet. A hush fell over the crowd as Thomas wrenched his arm free. How dare you touch me, you drifter? Do you know who I am? I know exactly who you are, Isaiah replied evenly. A man who thinks money gives him the right to manhandle a lady. Where I come from, that's the mark of no gentleman at all. Thomas's face contorted with rage. You insolent, that's enough, Thomas, came a sharp voice. Olivia turned to see Thomas's father, Mr. Harrington, approaching with the sheriff. You're embarrassing yourself. But father, enough, Mr. Harrington repeated. Go cool your head. He turned to Olivia and Isaiah. Miss Porter, Mr. Adams. Perhaps it would be best if you took your leave, for everyone's sake. Olivia straightened her spine. We've done nothing wrong, Mr. Harrington, but we'll go, if only to avoid further unpleasantness. They collected Emma, who was wide-eyed with excitement at the drama, and made their way out of the town square. Whispers followed them, but Olivia held her head high. I'm sorry, Isaiah said as they walked home in the gathering dusk. I shouldn't have confronted him like that. It will only make things harder for you. No, Olivia replied firmly. You were right to stand up to him. Thomas Harrington has been bullying people in this town for years because of his father's position. It's time someone showed him he can't always get his way. Emma skipped ahead of them, still energized by the day's events. Did you see his face when you stood up to him, Mr. Adams? I thought he might explode, Isaiah chuckled. Let's hope it doesn't come to that. I'd hate to be responsible for making a mess in the town square. By the time they reached the farm, the tension had eased and they were laughing about other moments from the day. As Emma went inside to prepare tea, Olivia lingered on the porch with Isaiah. Thank you for coming with us today, she said. Despite the drama, I think it was good for Emma to have a normal day of fun. And what about you? Isaiah asked. Was it good for you too? Olivia smiled. Parts of it, the dancing especially. Isaiah's eyes softened in the fading light. I enjoyed that too. A moment passed between them, charged with possibility, before Isaiah cleared his throat and stepped back. I should see to the animals before it gets too dark. Good night, Miss Porter. Good night, Mr. Adams, Olivia replied, watching him cross the yard to the barn, wondering why she felt both relief and disappointment. The next few days brought a flurry of activity as they prepared for the wheat planting. Isaiah worked from dawn to dusk, plowing the north field, while Olivia and Emma helped where they could. The incident at the town picnic seemed forgotten, though Olivia noticed Isaiah was more reserved around her, maintaining a careful distance. One afternoon, as Olivia was preparing supper, she heard the sound of horses approaching. Looking out the window, she saw Thomas Harrington and his father, along with Sheriff Davis and two other men she didn't recognize. Emma, stay inside, she instructed, wiping her hands on her apron and stepping onto the porch as the men dismounted. Miss Porter, Mr. Harrington greeted her, his manner polite but cold. We've come to speak with your farmhand. Mr. Adams is working in the north field, Olivia replied warily. May I ask what this is about? Sheriff Davis stepped forward. We've had reports of cattle rustling in the county, Miss Porter. Mr. Adams matches the description of a man seen in the area where cattle have gone missing. Olivia's heart sank. That's absurd. Mr. Adams has been working here every day for weeks. He hasn't had time to rustle cattle. Nevertheless, we need to question him, the sheriff insisted. Isaiah appeared then, walking in from the field. He took in the scene with a quick glance, his expression carefully neutral as he approached. Gentlemen, he greeted them. What can I do for you? Sheriff Davis explained the accusation, which Isaiah denied calmly. I've been right here on the Porter farm since I arrived in town. Miss Porter and her sister can vouch for my whereabouts. A woman's word won't carry much weight in court, one of the strangers commented with a smirk. Olivia bristled. And what about the fact that we don't even have cattle to rustle? Mr. Adams has been helping me prepare for wheat planting. When exactly would he have had time for thieving? Mr. Harrington studied her for a moment. Your loyalty to your employee is admirable, Miss Porter, but surely you can understand our concern. A stranger arrives in town, and shortly thereafter, cattle start disappearing. Check my cabin, Isaiah offered. Check the barn, the outbuildings. You won't find any stolen cattle or brands. The men did just that, searching every corner of the property while Olivia watched in growing outrage. They found nothing, of course, but the accusation hung in the air like a bad smell. We'll be watching you, Adams, the sheriff warned as they prepared to leave. Any trouble and you'll answer for it. After they rode away, Olivia turned to Isaiah, who stood with his hands clenched at his sides. They have no right, she fumed. No right at all to come onto our land and make these ridiculous accusations. It's not about rustling, Isaiah said quietly. It's about getting me to leave. I know, Olivia agreed. Thomas is behind this, I'm sure of it. He can't stand that I refused to sell to his father and refused to dance with him at the picnic. Isaiah looked at her, his expression grave. They won't stop, Olivia, not until they get what they want, either the land or me gone. Then they'll be disappointed, Olivia declared. Because neither of those things is going to happen. But over the next 2 weeks, the pressure intensified. Merchants in town suddenly refused to extend credit to the Porter farm. The mill charged extra to grind their flour. When their wagon wheel broke, the blacksmith claimed to be too busy to repair it. Through it all, Isaiah remained steadfast, working even harder to compensate for the town's hostility. He repaired the wagon wheel himself, fashioned new tools when they couldn't buy replacements, and helped Olivia figure out ways to stretch their dwindling supplies. Late one evening, as Olivia was returning from the chicken coop with the day's eggs, she found Isaiah sitting on the porch steps, whittling a piece of wood. He looked up as she approached, moving over to make room for her. Emma asleep? He asked. Olivia nodded, settling beside him. Finally. She was working on a new dress from that pattern Mrs. Johnson sent over, the only person in town still speaking to us, it seems. Things will ease up eventually, Isaiah said, though he didn't sound convinced. Will they? Olivia sighed. Sometimes I wonder if I'm being selfish, holding on to this place. Emma deserves better than to be ostracized because of my stubbornness. Isaiah set down his whittling. Is that what you think it is? Stubbornness, isn't it? I'm defying convention, defying the town's expectations. All for a piece of land. No, Isaiah said firmly. You're fighting for your independence, for your right to choose your own path. There's nothing selfish about that. Olivia looked at him, this man who had appeared in her life so unexpectedly and changed it so completely. Why did you really come here, Isaiah? You could work anywhere. Why answer an advertisement from a woman farmer in a small Nebraska town? Isaiah was quiet for a long moment, his hand still on the half-carved figure in his lap. I told you I served in the war, he finally said. What I didn't tell you is that I was at Andersonville. Olivia's breath caught. Everyone knew of the notorious Confederate prison where thousands of Union soldiers had died of starvation and disease. I was there for 6 months, Isaiah continued, his voice distant. Watched men waste away to nothing. Watched them lose hope, lose their minds, lose everything that made them human. When they finally released us, I was barely alive. Spent a year recovering at my sister's home in Illinois. Isaiah, I'm so sorry, Olivia whispered. He shook his head slightly. After that, I couldn't stay in one place. Kept moving, working ranches, taking whatever jobs came my way. Nothing felt right, nothing felt real until I saw your advertisement. What was different about it? Olivia asked. Isaiah looked at her then, his blue eyes reflecting the moonlight. It was the wording. Woman farmer seeks experienced help for struggling family farm. Most advertisements try to make the job sound better than it is. Yours was honest. I respected that. He paused, running his thumb along the wooden figure. And I guess I understood what it meant to fight against the odds. To have people look at you and see only what they expect to see, not who you really are. Olivia found herself reaching for his hand, her fingers closing around his work-roughened palm. Thank you for telling me. Isaiah's hand tightened around hers. There's something else you should know, the day of the picnic when Thomas Harrington tried to pull you away. I nearly did worse than just grab his wrist, if his father hadn't intervened. You were protecting me, Olivia said softly. Yes, Isaiah admitted, but it's more than that. I care about you, Olivia, more than an employee should care for his employer. The admission hung in the air between them, honest and vulnerable. Olivia's heart beat faster as she realized her own feelings mirrored his. I care about you too, she confessed. I've tried not to. I've told myself it's inappropriate, that I need to focus on saving the farm, but the truth is, you've become more important to me than I ever expected. Isaiah lifted her hand to his lips, pressing a gentle kiss to her knuckles. Whatever happens, whatever the town throws at us, I'm here, as long as you want me to be. In that moment, under the vast prairie sky scattered with stars, Olivia felt a sense of rightness she'd been missing for too long. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. The wheat planting went well, and by late June, green shoots carpeted the north field. The farm was beginning to thrive under their combined care, despite the town's continued cold shoulder. Isaiah had become not just a farmhand but a true partner in the operation, offering ideas and taking initiative without undermining Olivia's authority. One morning, as they were inspecting the corn, Isaiah suddenly stopped, pointing toward the road. Riders coming. Olivia shaded her eyes against the sun, her heart sinking as she recognized Thomas Harrington leading a group of men, including his father and Sheriff Davis. Stay behind me, Isaiah said quietly as the group approached. Mr. Harrington dismounted first, his expression grave. Miss Porter, Mr. Adams, I'm afraid I have serious news. What is it this time? Olivia asked, too weary of their tactics to be polite. We've received information that Mr. Adams is not who he claims to be, the banker continued. According to telegrams from authorities in Kansas, a man matching his description is wanted for robbery and assault in Dodge City. Isaiah stiffened beside her. That's a lie. I've never been involved in any robbery. Then you won't mind coming with us to answer some questions, Sheriff Davis said, dismounting as well. He doesn't need to go anywhere, Olivia protested. Whatever accusations you've concocted this time, this is not a request, Miss Porter, Mr. Harrington interrupted. The sheriff has authority to take Mr. Adams into custody pending investigation. Thomas smirked from atop his horse. Did you really think we wouldn't discover your criminal past, Adams, or whatever your real name is? Isaiah took a step forward, his jaw set. My name is Isaiah Adams. I served with the 104th Illinois Infantry during the war. I was a prisoner at Andersonville. Since then, I've worked honestly on ranches from Kansas to Colorado. I've never robbed anyone or assaulted anyone who didn't deserve it. Sheriff Davis approached, hand on his pistol. You'll have a chance to tell your story to the judge when he comes through next week. For now, you're coming with us. Olivia moved to stand beside Isaiah. This is harassment, plain and simple. You have no real evidence against him. Step aside, Miss Porter, the sheriff warned. Don't make this more difficult than it needs to be. What's really happening here, Olivia said, her voice rising, is that you're trying to scare off the only help I have, so I'll be forced to sell my farm. It's transparent and it's despicable. Mr. Harrington's expression hardened. Be careful with your accusations, young lady. Your position in this community is precarious enough as it is. My position? Olivia laughed bitterly. You've made sure of that, haven't you? Turned the town against me because I dared to work my own land instead of selling it to you at a fraction of its worth. Olivia, Isaiah cautioned, this isn't helping. She turned to him, her eyes blazing. I won't let them take you based on lies. I won't let them win. Isaiah's expression softened as he looked at her. They won't win, he promised quietly. Then he turned to the sheriff. I'll come peacefully, but I want it on record that these charges are false. Isaiah, no, Olivia protested. It's all right, he assured her. The truth will come out. In the meantime, you and Emma focus on the farm. He looked at the sheriff. May I gather a few belongings? The sheriff nodded curtly, and Isaiah walked toward his cabin, flanked by 2 deputies. Olivia watched helplessly, fury and fear battling within her. Thomas Harrington guided his horse closer to her. This could all end now, Olivia. Sell us the farm and all charges against your friend will be dropped. He can walk away, find work elsewhere. Everyone wins. Olivia stared at him, disgusted by the smug certainty on his face. You really believe you can buy anything, don't you? That money gives you the right to destroy people's lives. I'm offering you a way out, Thomas insisted. A chance to salvage your reputation, provide for your sister, free your farmhand. What more do you want? Before Olivia could respond, Isaiah returned with a small bundle of possessions. His eyes met hers across the yard, filled with a silent promise. I'll be back, he said simply. As the men rode away, Isaiah sitting tall on his black stallion despite being flanked by deputies, Olivia felt a strange calm settle over her. This wasn't over, not by a long shot. Emma was distraught when Olivia told her what had happened. They can't just take him. He hasn't done anything wrong. I know, Olivia agreed, already formulating a plan. And we're going to prove it. The next morning, Olivia left Emma in charge of the farm and rode to the neighboring county, where she sought out Judge Henderson, an old friend of her father's. The judge listened gravely to her story. This sounds like a clear abuse of power, he said when she'd finished. But proving it won't be easy. You need evidence that these charges are fabricated. How do I get that? Olivia asked. You said they claim to have telegrams from Dodge City. Find out if those telegrams really exist. And you'll need character witnesses for Mr. Adams, people who can vouch for his whereabouts during the time of the alleged crimes. Olivia nodded, determination hardening within her. I'll do whatever it takes. For the next few days, Olivia worked tirelessly. She rode to the telegraph office in the next town over and paid to send messages to Dodge City, inquiring about any warrants for Isaiah Adams. She visited every ranch within a day's ride, seeking anyone who might have employed Isaiah or known him during his travels. Meanwhile, Emma kept the farm running with help from Mrs. Johnson's son, who came by in the evenings after his own chores were done. 4 days after Isaiah's arrest, Olivia received responses to her telegrams. There were no warrants for anyone named Isaiah Adams in Dodge City. Furthermore, the sheriff there had no record of sending any telegrams regarding such a person to Nebraska. Armed with this evidence, Olivia visited Judge Henderson again. He reviewed the documents and nodded gravely. This is serious. Sheriff Davis has potentially committed false imprisonment based on fabricated evidence. I'll ride to your town tomorrow and look into this personally. The next day, as promised, Judge Henderson arrived in town, causing quite a stir. He went directly to the jail, where he demanded to see both Isaiah and any evidence against him. Olivia waited anxiously outside, pacing the boardwalk until the judge emerged with Isaiah beside him. Her heart leapt at the sight of him, unshaven and weary-looking but unharmed. Miss Porter, Judge Henderson called, your friend has been cleared of all charges. It seems there was a misunderstanding regarding his identity. Sheriff Davis followed them out, his face red with a combination of anger and embarrassment. Behind him came Mr. Harrington and Thomas, both looking thunderous. This isn't over, Thomas muttered as he passed Olivia. Actually, it is, Judge Henderson said, his voice carrying. And I'd advise you to tread carefully, Mr. Harrington. False imprisonment is a serious offense, as is conspiring to fabricate evidence. I'll be watching this situation closely from now on. As the Harringtons and the sheriff retreated, Olivia rushed to Isaiah's side. "Are you all right? Did they hurt you?" Isaiah shook his head, a tired smile crossing his face. "I'm fine, just ready to get back to work. We've got crops to tend." Judge Henderson cleared his throat. "I'll be staying in town for a few days, Miss Porter. Should you or Mr. Adams experience any further harassment, I want to know about it immediately." Olivia thanked him profusely before leading Isaiah to where their horses waited. As they rode home, side by side under the summer sun, Olivia felt a weight lift from her shoulders. "How did you do it?" Isaiah asked, glancing at her with admiration. Olivia smiled. "I did what any farmer would do. I dug until I found the truth." Isaiah chuckled, then grew serious. "Olivia, what Thomas said before they took me away, about selling the farm to free me. I need you to know I would never want you to give up your land for my sake." "I know," Olivia replied. "I never considered it for a moment." They crested the hill that overlooked the Porter farm, where the fields spread out before them, green and thriving in the summer heat. Emma stood in the yard, waving excitedly as she spotted them. "It's beautiful," Isaiah said quietly. "What you've built here, what you're fighting for." Olivia looked at him, this man who had stood by her through everything. "What we're fighting for," she corrected, "if you still want to stay." Isaiah reached across the space between them, taking her hand in his. "I'm not going anywhere, Olivia Porter, not unless you send me away." The next few weeks brought changes to Buckthorn Creek. Judge Henderson's presence in town and his open support of Olivia and Isaiah caused many townspeople to reconsider their treatment of the Porter farm. Gradually, the cold shoulders warmed, and merchants began extending credit again. Mr. Harrington, facing potential legal troubles for his part in Isaiah's false imprisonment, suddenly became very busy with banking matters in Omaha, leaving town for extended periods. Thomas, without his father's backing, grew quieter, his swagger diminished. On the farm, Olivia and Isaiah fell into a comfortable partnership. They worked side by side during the day, and in the evenings they often sat on the porch, talking long into the night. Their relationship deepened, growing beyond employer and employee, beyond even friendship, into something neither of them named but both cherished. One hot July afternoon, as they worked in the cornfield, Olivia noticed dark clouds gathering on the western horizon. "Storm coming," she observed, wiping sweat from her brow. Isaiah nodded, studying the sky. "A bad one by the look of it. We should secure everything." They worked quickly, bringing in the animals and battening down the farm as the wind picked up, and the first distant rumbles of thunder reached them. Emma rushed to bring in the washing from the line as the first fat raindrops began to fall. By the time they had everything secured, the storm was upon them in full force. Rain lashed against the windows of the farmhouse, and lightning split the sky in jagged white lines. "I've never seen a storm come on so fast," Emma said, peering nervously out the window. Isaiah stood by the door, watching the rain pummel the yard. "Prairie storms are like that, quick and fierce." He turned to Olivia. "I should check the barn, make sure the roof is holding." "Not in this," Olivia protested, just as a particularly loud crack of thunder shook the house. "It's too dangerous. If the roof leaks, the hay could be ruined," Isaiah pointed out. "We can't afford to lose it." Olivia knew he was right. "Then I'm coming with you. Emma, stay inside and keep the lamps lit." Emma nodded, her eyes wide with worry as Olivia and Isaiah pulled on rain slickers and headed out into the storm. The few yards between house and barn might as well have been miles. The wind nearly knocked them off their feet, and the rain was so heavy they could barely see. Isaiah grabbed Olivia's hand, keeping her close as they struggled toward the barn. Inside, the animals were restless, disturbed by the thunder and lightning. Olivia checked on the horses while Isaiah examined the roof, where water was indeed dripping through in several places. "We need to move the hay," he called over the sound of rain on the roof. "The northeast corner is the driest." They worked together, shifting the precious hay bales to the safest part of the barn. Outside, the storm grew even more intense, wind howling around the building and making the timbers creak. Suddenly, a deafening crack split the air, followed by a tremendous crash. The entire barn shuddered as something heavy struck the roof. Tree branch. Isaiah shouted, looking up as water began pouring through a new hole above them. Olivia's heart raced. The horses, they rushed to calm the panicked animals, who were rearing and whinnying in fear. Isaiah managed to secure the draft horses while Olivia soothed her mare, Willow. "We need to get them out of here," Isaiah said, eyeing the damaged roof warily. If more comes down before he could finish, another crack sounded, and a larger section of the roof gave way under the weight of the fallen branch. Olivia cried out as debris rained down, and Isaiah lunged toward her, pushing her against the wall and shielding her with his body as timber and shingles crashed around them. For a moment they stood frozen, Isaiah's arms braced on either side of Olivia, his body a protective barrier between her and danger. Rain poured through the gaping hole in the roof, soaking them despite the shelter of the barn. "Are you hurt?" Isaiah asked, his voice rough with concern as he drew back slightly to look at her. Olivia shook her head, breathless not from fear but from his proximity. "No, I'm fine," he assured her, though she noticed he winced slightly as he lowered his arms. "You're not fine," she contradicted, spotting a tear in his shirt and a smear of blood beneath. "You're bleeding." Isaiah glanced at his arm dismissively. "Just a scratch. We need to get the horses to the old shed behind the house. It's smaller but should be more stable." Despite his protests, Olivia insisted on checking his injury first, revealing a nasty gash where a piece of wood had caught him. She tore a strip from her petticoat and bound it quickly. "That will have to do for now," she said. "Let's get the animals to safety." Together, they led the horses through the rain to the old shed, making multiple trips until all the animals were secured. By the time they finished, they were both drenched to the skin and exhausted. They made a final dash to the house, where Emma waited anxiously. She gasped when she saw Isaiah's bandaged arm. "You're hurt. It's nothing serious," he assured her. "But I could use some proper bandaging if you wouldn't mind." While Emma gathered bandages and salve, Olivia insisted Isaiah sit by the fire to warm up. She brought him a towel for his dripping hair and a blanket for his shoulders. "Your shirt is ruined," she observed. "I'll fetch one of my father's. They might be a bit small, but they'll do until yours dries." When she returned with the shirt, Isaiah had removed his torn and sodden one. Olivia stopped short at the sight of his bare torso, muscled from years of physical labor, but also marked with scars, some old and white, others still pink. The worst formed a patchwork across his back, unmistakably the result of deliberate cruelty. Isaiah caught her gaze and quickly reached for the dry shirt. "Andersonville," he said simply, answering her unasked question. Olivia swallowed hard, her heart aching for what he must have endured. "I'm sorry," he shrugged as he pulled on the shirt. "It was a long time ago." Emma returned with the bandages, and Olivia helped her clean and properly dress Isaiah's wound. It was deeper than she'd initially thought, but not serious enough to require stitches. "Thank you," Isaiah said when they finished. "Both of you," Emma smiled. "You saved our barn from collapsing completely. A bandage is the least we can do." The storm continued through the night, but they were safe and warm in the house. Emma eventually went to bed, leaving Olivia and Isaiah sitting before the fire, listening to the rain. "I should go to my cabin," Isaiah said, though he made no move to leave. "In this weather, don't be ridiculous," Olivia replied. "You can sleep here tonight, the sofa is comfortable enough." Isaiah nodded, grateful. "Thank you." A comfortable silence fell between them, broken only by the crackling of the fire and the drumming of rain on the roof. Olivia found herself studying Isaiah's profile, the strong line of his jaw, the way the firelight played across his features. "What are you thinking about?" he asked, catching her gaze. "You," Olivia answered honestly. "How different my life is because you answered that advertisement, how different I am." Isaiah turned to face her more fully. "Different how? Stronger," Olivia said after a moment's reflection, "more sure of myself. Before you came, I was just struggling to hold on day by day. Now I feel like I'm building something, not just preserving it." "You were already strong," Isaiah countered. "I just helped you see it." Olivia shook her head slightly. "It's more than that. You believed in me when no one else did." Not even myself some days. Isaiah's expression softened. How could I not believe in you, Olivia Porter? You're the most remarkable woman I've ever known. The simple sincerity in his voice made Olivia's heart swell. Without overthinking, she leaned forward and pressed her lips to his in a gentle kiss. For a moment, Isaiah remained still, as if afraid to break the spell. Then his hand came up to cup her face, and he returned her kiss with a tenderness that made her eyes sting with unexpected tears. When they drew apart, his thumb brushed her cheek. I've wanted to do that since the day of the town picnic, he admitted. Olivia smiled. You should have. Isaiah's eyes grew serious. I wasn't sure if you wanted us. I'm just a drifter, Olivia, a man with scars inside and out. You deserve better. Better than a man who respects me, who works beside me without complaint, who defends me against the entire town. Olivia shook her head. There is no better, Isaiah, not for me. He pulled her closer then, his kiss deeper this time, full of longing held in check for too long. Olivia wound her arms around his neck, feeling truly at home for the first time since her father died. When they finally separated, breathless and flushed, Isaiah rested his forehead against hers. I love you, Olivia Porter. I think I have since the moment I saw you standing in your field, proud and defiant and beautiful. I love you too, Olivia whispered, the words feeling both momentous and entirely natural. Stay with me, not just tonight, always. Always, Isaiah promised, sealing the vow with another kiss. The storm eventually passed, leaving behind a washed, clean world sparkling in the morning sun. The barn roof would need substantial repairs, but the damage wasn't as bad as they'd feared. With Isaiah's skill and Olivia's determination, they set about restoring it, working side by side as they had for months. Word of their relationship spread through town, causing a fresh wave of gossip, but Olivia found she no longer cared what others thought. She had Isaiah, she had Emma, she had her farm, everything that truly mattered. Summer gave way to fall, and the wheat harvest proved better than they dared hope. For the first time since her father's death, Olivia was able to pay off some of the outstanding debts and still have money left over. One crisp October evening, as they sat on the porch watching the sunset paint the sky in brilliant oranges and pinks, Isaiah took Olivia's hand. I've been thinking, he began, uncharacteristically hesitant. A dangerous pastime, Olivia teased, squeezing his fingers. Isaiah smiled. Maybe so. But I've been thinking about us, about the future, about making things official. Olivia's heart skipped a beat. Official? Isaiah turned to face her fully, taking both her hands in his. Olivia Porter, I came here looking for work and found a home instead. Found you. Would you do me the honor of becoming my wife? Joy bubbled up inside Olivia, bright and effervescent. Yes, she said simply. Nothing would make me happier. Isaiah reached into his pocket and withdrew a small ring, a simple gold band with a tiny pearl set in the center. It was my mother's, he explained. I wrote to my sister in Illinois and she sent it to me. As he slipped it onto her finger, Olivia felt tears welling in her eyes. It's perfect, she whispered. Emma, who had been watching from the doorway, rushed out with a squeal of delight. Finally, she exclaimed, throwing her arms around both of them. I thought you'd never ask her, Mr. Adams. Isaiah laughed. I think, under the circumstances, you might start calling me Isaiah. They were married 2 weeks later in a small ceremony in the town church. To Olivia's surprise, many townspeople attended, including Mrs. Johnson, the blacksmith and his family, and even Reverend Miller and his wife. Seems you've won them over, Isaiah murmured as they received congratulations after the ceremony. We've won them over, Olivia corrected him. Together. As winter settled over the prairie, bringing short days and long, cold nights, the newly married Adamses established their own rhythms and routines. Isaiah moved from the cabin into the main house, sharing Olivia's room while Emma continued to occupy her own. They worked together during the daylight hours, planning for spring planting and caring for the animals, and spent evenings by the fire, talking, reading, or simply enjoying each other's company. Christmas brought a surprise visit from Isaiah's sister, Martha, and her husband from Illinois. They arrived by train, bearing gifts and stories of Isaiah's childhood that made Olivia laugh until her sides ached. I've never seen my brother so happy, Martha confided to Olivia as they prepared Christmas dinner together. After the war, I thought he might never find peace. But he's found it here with you. Olivia glanced through the doorway to where Isaiah sat with Emma and Martha's husband, teaching them a card game. We've found it together, she said softly. Spring arrived with new beginnings. The wheat they'd planted in the fall emerged from the melting snow, green and promising. Olivia discovered she was expecting a child, due in the late summer. And most surprisingly, they received a letter from Mr. Harrington, offering to buy their surplus grain at a fair price when harvest came. People can change, Isaiah observed after reading the letter. Even bankers, apparently. Perhaps, Olivia agreed. Or perhaps he's finally realized it's better to have us as neighbors than enemies. As planting season approached, Isaiah and Olivia stood in the field that had started at all the one where she had been working when he first arrived. The soil was rich and dark, ready for seed. Hard to believe it's been almost a year, Isaiah said, his arm around her waist, hand resting gently on her slightly rounded belly. The best year of my life, Olivia replied, leaning into his embrace. A wagon approached on the road, and they both looked up to see Thomas Harrington at the reins. He slowed as he drew even with them, his expression unreadable. Poor Mrs. Adams, he corrected himself with a slight nod. Mr. Adams. Thomas, Olivia acknowledged cautiously. They hadn't spoken since before Isaiah's arrest. Thomas cleared his throat. I'm leaving for St. Louis tomorrow. Taking a position with my uncle's firm there. I wish you well, Olivia said, surprised by the news. Thomas looked at the field, then back at them. I wanted to say I was wrong about a lot of things, but especially about you. His gaze moved between Olivia and Isaiah. Both of you. Without waiting for a response, he flicked the reins and continued down the road. Well, Isaiah said after a moment, wonders never cease. Olivia smiled, turning back to the field before them. We have work to do, Mr. Adams. This land won't plow itself. Isaiah grinned, pressing a kiss to her temple. Then let's get to it, Mrs. Adams, together. Side by side, they walked to the waiting plow, ready to continue building the life they had fought so hard to create, a life of honest work, enduring love, and the freedom to follow their own path, regardless of what others might think. As the seasons turned, the Porter Adams farm thrived. The child Olivia carried was born in August, a healthy boy they named James, after Olivia's father. Emma, now 17, began teaching at the local school, having discovered a passion for education. And Isaiah, once a drifter without roots, became known as one of the most respected farmers in the county. Every morning, they rose with the sun and worked the land together. And every evening, as they sat on the porch watching the sunset, Olivia remembered that day in the field when she had stood alone against the world, and the moment when a stranger on a black horse had changed everything by believing in her. The townsfolk eventually forgot that there had ever been scandal in a woman working her own fields. What they remembered instead was the sight of husband and wife laboring side by side, equal partners in all things, proving with every harvest that love, respect, and determination could overcome even the most deeply entrenched prejudice. And whenever a new family arrived in Buckthorn Creek, struggling to establish themselves against the odds, Olivia and Isaiah were the first to welcome them, offering help and friendship without judgment. For they, more than anyone, understood that sometimes the most beautiful things grow from the hardest soil, and that every person deserves the chance to plow their own path.